So that is very difficult to implement. But as a scientist, you don't need so much to worry about it, because you say, okay, well, I don't, I'm not so much concerned about how you do it. I'm more concerned about what you do and what the outcome of that measure would be, and how that would benefit society as a whole. So I think that's the bigger issue there. That basically depends on where you put your emphasis. Lagarde looks more at the impossibilities in terms of policy implementation. I think Rayo of Dalio, Ray Dalio, he is more concerned about the side effects of drastic policy changes that will have on the business world, which is basically, but an investment fund that size will have a direct impact from these kinds of measures. So they're never in favor of changing things drastically. Therefore, he's also very much against it, and he sees that, okay, well, that's typically taught from a professor, impractical, unrealistic. So he doesn't want to buy into his ideas.
So we discussed the past several weeks, much more focus, oriented to the opinion of Larry Summers rather than the remaining
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
But actually,
Yeah.
for those business world people, very much feeling risks or very much careful for the taking political policy for those orientation.
Right, but we are a little bit further in time at the moment, and I think if we look in like, for example, to the United States, in the political situation there, we can really start to wonder what kind of impacts, for example, President Trump will have on the public opinion. And leaders like Trump, the fact that leaders like Trump can be elected and supported by many people, even though, in spite of the fact that it may turn out that he is engaged in, well, I don't know if I may say this strongly, but like political practices that are close to mafia practices, that will create more visibility about how urgent the situation is. And if the urgency becomes more clear, we may actually be prepared to take more drastic measures. So I think that maybe this is now this video was shot, I think, just after Trump was elected. We are now a little bit further in time, and I'm not sure whether people will still have the same opinion. I think the world is moving towards a scenario where it becomes clear that some kinds of political leadership that are the product of these kinds of imbalances in society are becoming a serious threat.
Yeah, and just this video, the Davos meeting is just held just after the American election. So at
Yeah.
that time, they do not know the Trump's political policy, which direction they are going to, he is going to. And concerning current situation, Trump says how to save the middle income people, but actually not so much issues happening, that's not happening yet because of the business people, just like those people like here have big pressure for Trump, and he did some tax reduction for the rich people, not the poor people. Kind of things actually happening, and he is still saying that how to save poor people, but
Right.
so not so much effective so far. But still,
Right.
many people try to trust him, and he never talking about universal income. He never talking about the kind of how to save people, and so this is the current situation for inequality in the states.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so Larry's the opinion is maybe right, but many people are against him.
Yeah.
And like we discussed about tax haven, how to avoiding tax payment of their own country, but actually very difficult to how to solve these issues, right?
Yeah, it's very difficult to
But
to
also
solve the
how
issue, and it's very
to
difficult to implement these changes because it's a transnational problem, just like CO2 emissions, etc. We all need to buy into that. It doesn't really work if only one country starts to reduce its emissions. This needs to be a concerted effort. The same is true for implementing the reductions of outbanning these tax haven constructions. A country like Switzerland, which is not a tax haven, but it's a country with a bank haven, but bank secret, but they are really relying on that bank secret, and a lot of people who have money that has questionable origin, they choose to put their money in Switzerland, not because they have the best bankers in the world, but because they have their bank secret. The same is true for why do people start their head office in the Netherlands, not because the Netherlands is such a wonderful country, but basically because we have exceptionally low taxes on intellectual property. But if the Netherlands would give up on that advantage, then a lot of companies couldn't be bothered to open their business in the Netherlands, and they would bring their business elsewhere, and that would mean that basically we would have to say goodbye to free money, because even though the tax is low, but if a lot of companies let their income flow to the Netherlands, we can still benefit from tax revenue that we otherwise would not get. So not many countries would like to forego this advantage, and outbanning and outlawing these kinds of tax constructions and creating a system of global solidarity will be very hard to implement.
But by the way, do you have uh, inequality in Holland?
Yes, yes, not to the same level as the United States. But we have a much more egalitarian system. We are not that far behind Scandinavia, but
Like
we are
like
not.
Japan?
Yes, but I think there is a bigger gap, a bigger income gap in the Netherlands between rich and poor than is in Japan. On the other hand, we have a much better, much more developed social security system. Um, so, for example, we have good public welfare system. There's unemployment benefit. There is welfare for people who can't find who cannot find a job. There's yeah, people are quite well taken care of. On top of that, costs, for example, for education are very low compared to Japan. So basically, people normally, under normal circumstances, do not have to worry so much about being poor, even though they cannot find a job or cannot work for whatever reason. They will be able to survive because the costs, most costs that they need to worry about, is being taken care of. It used to be the same for pensions, but I believe the system now is dramatically changing, and pensions are not a given anymore, just like anywhere else in the world. We have a problem paying for the pensions.